Welcome back everyone, I'm Rebecca Martinez and today we're going to be making a pumpkin loaf with cashew frosting. Start by grinding 1 3/4 cup of oat flour in a Ninja food processor or in your own food processor or using the store-bought stuff. This recipe is naturally gluten-free, so for those folks out there who are gluten-free, this recipe is totally for you. And then take out your big kahuna Vitamix or strong food processor or blender. Ninja works great here as well. And then we're going to add 1 banana that is very ripe to the bowl of our stand mixer, in addition to 12 dates, medjool dates that hopefully have been softened or lightly microwaved for about 15 seconds to 1 minute, making sure they don't explode in the microwave because they definitely tend to do this. You can lessen the amount of dates if you want to use less to 15. Save your date pits because you can make some date coffee with your date pits. And we're going to add a whole can of pumpkin. Yes, a whole can, because I am tired of those recipes that only use 1 cup of pumpkin and then you have to preserve the rest of the pumpkin from the can. I wanted a recipe that used the whole can. So this is a very fibrous recipe. Now add 2 tablespoons of ground flaxseed to your blender and about a ½ cup of almond milk or whatever plant-based milk you prefer. Put on your lid and give it a good mix. This mixture tends to take some time, so be patient because there's so much fiber here. There's a ton of dates, there's pumpkin, there's flaxseed, there's a banana, but in the name of health, we're gonna grind this sucker to bits. It's gonna take about 10 to 15 minutes. Be patient, turn off your Vitamix or your blender occasionally and wipe down the sides and it'll be a-okay. Once it's gotten to a decent texture, we're going to add 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla powder. Vanilla powder retains some of the nutritional value more so than vanilla extract. It's a little more expensive, so if you don't have it, just substitute the same amount of vanilla extract. Now add 1 teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice, another teaspoon of cinnamon, so you won't have to add more pumpkin pie spice if you choose, but do whatever you want. Now mix in a 1/4 teaspoon of fresh nutmeg. Fresh nutmeg is so much more superior to the ground nutmeg, and add a teaspoon of salt for flavor, totally optional for folks avoiding salt. Once you have all your spices in there, give it a good whisk, and lastly add the fat. Instead of using coconut butter, which you can use instead, I use 2 tablespoons of sunflower butter. You don't really taste it, but it adds to the sort of density but also creaminess of the loaf. This is not a traditional cake by any means. It is very dense, it is very fibrous, but it's healthy and it's filling. Blend everything until it's as creamy as possible, and then we're going to start with our dry ingredients. For our dry ingredients, we're going to use 1 tablespoon of baking powder. Yes, 1 tablespoon, because we need an extra bit of lift with so much fiber in this loaf and oat flour. So add that to a separate bowl and add 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. Baking soda is a gnarly little sucker. It's hard to get it out of those sort of rectangular squares it comes in. Add 1/2 cup of almond flour and the oat flour that we previously blended in our Ninja. Whisk together with whatever whisk you have handy. Grease a loaf pan of your choosing and combine the wet ingredients to the dry ingredients of whatever bowl of your choosing. This is going to be a hefty thing to mix, so I recommend starting with the whisk or just using a spatula from the beginning, because you want to have a tool that can reach all the way under that mixture and make sure that everything is well combined. You don't want to have any bits that are not included. You don't want to have a flour pocket of oat flour. Similar to just regular baking, you don't want to have flour pockets, so you don't really want to sift oat flour. You can if you want to, but what works best is just simply combining everything as well as possible. Fill your greased loaf pan with your wonderful cake mixture And then to make sure that everything cooks really evenly, once it's all in there, you're going to take a butter knife and create an S motion throughout the mixture of the cake in order to eliminate any bubbles or air pockets that might be in the cake mixture. Then take your spatula and flatten everything on the top so it's super nice and smooth. Give it a good couple of taps on your counter just to eliminate any bubbles that may be in there. And then take your butter knife once more and score it through the center of your loaf. This will just help with any sort of rising, and hopefully it will crack right in the middle of your loaf cake. Take your loaf pan and your wonderful cake and bake it in the oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 60 to 70 minutes. Darn, that's a long time. Yes, 60 to 70 minutes. This is a dense loaf. You want it to be totally baked, and it'll retain so much moisture from the pumpkin, from the dates, from the bananas, and after it's been in the tin for about 15 minutes, carefully release it and allow it to cool completely on a wire rack. For the frosting, we're going to start with 1.5 cups of cashews soaked overnight. We're going to add 8 medjool dates to the mixture and half a teaspoon of salt, juice of 1 lemon, and coconut butter, which I will add after everything is just a bit more blended together. Give the dates and the cashews a good mix so everything starts to cream a little bit, and then melt 2 tablespoons of coconut butter and apply this to the mixture. Coconut butter is much better for you than coconut oil. Coconut oil is just saturated fat. The coconut butter actually has some of the fiber of the coconut meat within the mixture. To thin everything out, add half a cup of soy milk or almond milk, whatever you have. And additionally, I added 1 teaspoon of brown sugar syrup. You want everything to be as smooth as possible, like usual. And then put this into another bowl once everything is done so we can top our loaf cake with it. It should be super nice and smooth, like as smooth as butter. Honestly, I'm really surprised. It had the texture of buttercream frosting and I loved it. This is the kind of frosting that you can eat out of the jar, no problem, because this has actually got some health benefits to it. Take your loaf cake, put it on whatever tray you want to that help support it while you put the icing on top, and slowly add as much wonderful and decadent cashew frosting you want on top. I would recommend preserving all of the extra because you will have an additional amount of cashew frosting, and just like stack it on those slices. As you cut into it, you'll notice that the crumb is quite tight, but that's the whole point. Remember, my friends, this is a pumpkin loaf with a full can of pumpkin, 20 dates, a banana, but this is like a healthy loaf and I love it. It's honestly delicious. I love healthy baking. I like to have sugar and fried foods every once in a while, but healthy baking I think has my heart for the most part. So I hope you enjoy this recipe. It's damn delicious. Let me know what you think in the comments.